Hi YouTube, welcome back to my channel. It's Friday and we haven't had a fragrance Friday on this channel for a long time. That is, I was going to do a series when I just talked about perfume, scents, fragrance products on Fridays because as well as makeup, fragrance is one of my interests, one of my favourite things. And I would say in the last 12 months or so, I've probably spent more of my budget on fragrance than on makeup. I definitely have bought quite a few expensive perfumes and a few less expensive. And I've also kind of veered out of my comfort zone and bought new fragrances. It all kicked off, and I promised you this video for a long time with me getting a big sampler box from Byredo with a huge amount of small sprays to try. And then I ordered a couple from there, and that was not last Christmas, but I think the Christmas before, which probably kicked this off. But this one that I'm going to talk about today is actually a Prada perfume, eau de parfum, I think, strictly speaking. It's part of the Olfactories Spices range, and it's called Soleil au Zenith. I think Soleil is the sun. I don't know. Au Zenith? Zenith, is that sunrise? High noon? Don't know how it translates. So this is one of the Prada specialized range. I certainly haven't even seen these bottles before I saw this on a YouTube video, which I'll tell you about in a moment before I tell you about the perfume. I was more familiar with the square bottles with the kind of silvery, similar aesthetic. So they've got the hyacinth, not the hyacinth, the iris one, the general Prada range, and then more recently they've gone in for those trendy triangular bottles. What I didn't know was, until I started researching this after I bought it, was that this particular range, which I think started in about 2015, was the last kind of true Prada range before they were bought out. And people have said the perfume's gone downhill since then. I don't know. I do like some Prada fragrances. I've tended to think they were very strong. Now, the story behind me getting this one is slightly unusual, particularly for me, because it was actually when I was watching one of those videos that I love watching from Vogue. They have several series. They have one where French Vogue has French women, usually sometimes American, sometimes English, but always living in Paris, rooting through their handbags, and they're always super chic. And they usually have about 3 different women who look impossibly glamorous, showing you the contents of their handbag, which is nothing like the kind of repository for rubbish that mine is. And they often have various bits of makeup and fragrance that you then covered. They also have a series where somebody sits down in New York or London and shows you the contents of their handbag, and they tend to be famous people. The French Paris Vogue one, of course, France being France, they're not usually famous, but they're interesting. They're film stars or whatever, cultural icons for British Vogue. Not so much cultural icon was Colleen Rooney, who did a What's in My Bag and produced this as her favourite fragrance. Now, Colleen Rooney, British people will know who I'm talking about. American viewers, other Europeans may not, probably Europeans do. Wife of Wayne Rooney, who was a famous footballer, now retired. Liverpudlian with a very strong accent. A wag, basically, wife and girlfriend. She's had a bit of a renaissance in this country because she pulled a fast one on another wag who had been shopping her to the papers, and she did selling stories basically about her. and she did her own little investigation and became called Wagatha Christie. Outed this other girl who had pretended to be a friend and basically was spying on her on Instagram and all the rest of it. Anyway, that's a very long story for how I came to somehow think, oh, I'd like to try that fragrance. Now, I don't know why, because I'm not exactly a Colleen Rooney fan. I wouldn't have thought she had great taste in perfume if you'd asked me. She didn't really explain what was so great about this perfume, other than saying all of her friends thought it was fantastic. Again, on the face of it, not a great recommendation. But I was sending away for some samples from one of those companies that give you a decant. And so when I'd looked it up, I'd seen how expensive it was, which I, not a surprise, I suppose. I got the sample and I absolutely loved it. So why, you ask me, 5 minutes into the video, we haven't got there. What's so special about this? Really difficult to describe. When you read about it, it's called either an amber spicy or an oriental spicy fragrance. And the bottle is so heavy, honestly, you'd break a toe if you drop this on your toe. I'm having another sniff. I don't think I would have even called it, maybe amber, hint of spice, but not at all. I tend to think of the Orientals in the kind of opium Yves Saint Laurent category. The top note of this is peach and ylang ylang. And I think you just about get, there's a faint fruit, but not in that nasty kind of cheap way that you sometimes get. You know, I didn't really like the peach fragrance, although I bought it that came out from Tom Ford a couple of years ago. This is much more subtle. The middle note is sandalwood, which I think I probably do get. And it's that creamy sandalwood rather than the woody sandalwood. And then the base notes are cinnamon, nutmeg, cumin and pimento. So it sounds terribly spicy. To me, there's a vanilla, a tonka, again, not in a nasty, cheap way. It's just very creamy, very smooth. Some people have called it an enigmatic scent, and I think it is. So I'm not really giving you a very good description. I've read online, a lot of people say it's like Serge Luchen's Féminité du Bois, which I have smelt. I don't really get the similarity. I would say this is much softer. Féminité du Bois has, to me, a pronounced cedar note in it, which I don't get in this at all. Much woodier. Other people say it's like Dolce & Gabbana, La Dolce Vita. I don't think I've smelt that, or I can't remember what it smells like. So there's a wide range of people who say it's like one or other of those. If I had to describe it, I would actually say it has a touch of gourmand. I often like gourmand fragrances. It's definitely sweet to me, but not in a cloying way. There is a bit of woodiness, there is a bit of spice. It's just a perfectly balanced fragrance. Now, again, a lot of people describe it as a winter fragrance. I think you could wear it all year. If I actually just smelt it, I would say it was more a kind of summer evening fragrance, but maybe that's just me. Described as unisex, plainly any fragrance can be unisex. You can wear what you like, but I would say this is quite a feminine fragrance to me. Beautifully and expensively packaged with the gorgeous cap. Heavy bottle. I wish they only make this size. I think maybe a bigger one. They don't do a smaller one, which I would love for my handbag, because this is like a brick. Colleen Rooney was carrying it around this size. I suppose I could decant it into an atomizer. Other people say on the internet that it's discontinued. It's certainly being stocked on Selfridges still, which was where I got the great discount. I had about £70 discount on it. It's really pricey. and it was still pricey even with that discount. So it can't. There must be stock somewhere, but I think it's perhaps isn't continuing to be reproduced. And I don't really see very often any of the rest of the range because there were about 4 or 5 of them in the same spices olfactory range. This seems to be the one that's still hanging around. Maybe they are still producing it because it's popular. Honestly, if you can get a sniff, I guess in a big department store with a good fragrance department like Selfridges, maybe, I haven't looked in Liberty's whether they stock Prada even, have a sniff or send away for a decant. Even that won't be cheap, to be honest, to see if you like it, because I really, really love this fragrance. It's up there with my all-time favourites. Another 13, Tom Ford's Black Orchid. Yeah, so that was quite a long video saying not very much that's helpful to you, other than I really, really like it. But if you like the Fragrance Fridays, let me know. I've got a lot of other perfumes I've bought in the last 12 months, most of which I like. And on Sunday, I'm hoping the rest of my Chanel denim collection purchases will have arrived. Some of them have. And I will show you what I got, which was more than I intended to when I started out, on my low buy from Chanel. But until then, take care, and I will speak to you soon. Bye for now.